Hey there Cosmic Warriors, and welcome back to another video. And if you are new here, my name is Hannah. I am a Western practical astrologer, and I am here today to talk about the Pisces personality. So we're going to be looking at the personal planets within the sign of Pisces, as well as the Pisces Rising. The personal planets being the Sun, Moon, Mercury, Venus, and Mars. So stay tuned. However, before we do dive into today's video, don't forget to subscribe, hit the like button and click the bell. And if you are interested in my services, then you can visit my website, hannahselsewhere.com. There you can also find my practical astrology ebooks, guide and merch. All the links will be in the description box down below. I do hope that you find this video to be helpful today. Let's do this. Alright, so before we do dive into this, I would love to know, do you have any Pisces placements? And if you resonate with your placements today, let us know in the description box or the comment section. Okay, so to begin, just looking at the Pisces personality overall, if you have a Pisces personality, you are dreamy, spiritual, devoted, fluid, and highly intuitive. You're also highly sensitive people, sensitive to your surroundings, and this is something you may or may not be aware of, and that is how easily you adapt to other people's persuasions, mannerisms, and behaviors and character. You are highly impressionable people, which can be beneficial at times, but there can also be times when such qualities are detrimental. And so what really matters here is considering who you surround yourself with and what types of environments you're in. You could absorb someone's bad mood, for example, where their mood becomes your own. Or you could pick up on someone's good mood. Next thing you know, you're feeling amazing, like you can take on anything. It all depends. It really depends. Though on that note, does this mean you can't remove yourself from a situation or you can't choose how to react? Again, it depends. But the point that I'm trying to get at here is a big part of what you're coming to learn is how to manage your actions and how to develop an identity. Though more on that in just a moment. But still, you're very sensitive people, very caring and generous and giving. You genuinely care about others. You care about animals, the elderly, the homeless, the vulnerable, people who are victims, people who have really been victimized. You want to support them, care for them, people who are hurting, people who are powerless. And you want the world to be a much better place. You wish humans would be kinder to each other and they could look further than just themselves. There is this highly uplifting energy you bring as well. After all, your traditional ruler is Jupiter, and Jupiter points to the likes of being uplifting, positive qualities, cheerful qualities, being inspirational and expansive. These things that I mentioned, these are big parts of your personality. You can be people who know exactly how to help others in need. You can be great at cheering up your friend, great at showing them how loved and important they are, and you want to share with others and really help humanity. There is this strong desire to serve and to serve without expecting anything in return. And the amount of wisdom you have to share and really offer to the world is just remarkable. You also possess incredible inner hope and faith. You believe deeply in yourself, and even if the world is falling apart, even when things go horribly wrong, you trust that things will change. things will get better. Perhaps even when it comes to other people, even if they mistreat you or they are showcasing negative sort of qualities, you believe that they'll improve. You believe that things will get better. And looking at this overall, believing that you will have your time in the sun once again. Perhaps you're also highly spiritual people, and so you turn to your spiritual practices to help you through. You turn to your spiritual self and you trust that it will guide you. It will guide you to the place you're supposed to be. On the other hand, you can also experience these moments and chapters of deep pain, sorrow, and suffering. And whilst your inner self trusts that things will pass, you can get caught up in some very chaotic and confusing situations. This could look like you staying in a very unhealthy relationship for far too long. This could look like you battling with an addiction, or this could look like you suffering with a mental illness or seeing a loved one struggling with their mental health. So going back to the whole point of developing an identity that I mentioned earlier, I think that as you mature, you learn to embrace a greater awareness of your identity, of establishing independence. You grow to be assertive, courageous, and daring. You grow to establish healthy boundaries between yourself and others, and you're able to put yourself first. And others can put themselves first as well, perhaps without you taking it to heart or taking it personally. Naturally though, you're still going to be there to support your lovers, your friends, your family, and so on. You're still going to stick by your parents' side if they are suffering, but perhaps it's less likely that you will lose yourself in the process. And I also think you develop a backbone. And what I mean by this is there can be times when you hide away. You hide from things that are too challenging, they're too stressful, they're too difficult. There can also be times when you bury your head in the sand and you live in a state of denial. But as you age and mature, perhaps you realize the power to be found in facing life, facing challenges, standing up for yourself. Again, putting yourself first and also being able to motivate yourself. Now, at the same time, you nourish your soul. You strongly consider what your soul wants and also what your heart wants. You allow your heart and your soul to speak. You possess such a strong intuition, and when you pay attention to it and when you practice listening to your inner guide, your trust in your inner guide, your trust in yourself strengthens. And by developing that trust in your intuition, perhaps you also grow stronger in your ability to set boundaries. You don't fall into the same unconscious patterns and cycles either. And this right here leads me on to the final thing that I really want to mention, and that is to do with how the modern day ruler of Pisces is Neptune. See, Neptune points to the parts of you that can martyr yourself, that can become victimized, the parts of you that can be vague, deceptive, and immoral. See, when you lack boundaries, you're more likely to act in ways whereby which others may disrespect you, they may victimize you, they may mistreat you. Then again, there can be times when you do not show good character, because of that, the lack of the backbone that you possess, or maybe you deceive yourself, okay? You might even give in to other people's demands easily, or you might not be so clear about what you need, about what you want. And it's also likely that you feel directionless. Things are foggy, things are misleading and confusing. And this is also when deception can come in, okay? Where You might lie to someone because you don't want to hurt their feelings. Or it's that you lie to yourself because you're afraid. You're afraid of leaving a situation, or you're afraid of, again, hurting somebody else's feelings. Now, don't get me wrong. I mean, some lies can be much worse than other lies. And often we can be vague with others as a way to avoid hurting other people's feelings as well. But there can be times when a lie leads to another, and then it leads to another, and then lying to others so you don't hurt them can actually end up hurting them in the long run. So you might think you're protecting them, but really you're only protecting their feelings in that moment. And then things become a lot worse later on. And also there's the side of this whereby which you're lying to yourself, and you'll have to deal with your own feelings of regret or guilt and so on. And come to think about it, I think there's also a part of this where actually you don't want to get hurt. So sure, it might appear as if you don't want to hurt someone else, but maybe there's no other layer of this where not wanting to get hurt from the backlash is at play. Not wanting to get hurt by other people's reactions to you. So there could be all sorts of reasons for why this is, thinking about childhood, how you were raised and so on. But then again, this also suggests, what is also suggested here is how you believe others and take them at face value. Kind of going back to the whole believing or trusting that things will change or things will get better. And you can be highly forgiving people when others do hurt you. So there's a lot of really deep stuff here, a lot of very emotional things to consider. So therefore, this is also where we're noticing the importance of establishing independence, boundaries, being courageous, being able to stand up for yourself and so on. And I do think that you tap into these types of qualities. You can embrace these qualities. Still, you are such empathetic and compassionate people. And there is a tenderness, a softness, a gentleness, a kindness when it comes to you. You can display unconditional love toward your child, your lover, your parent. You can also be so sympathetic toward others. Though if you are the type of Pisces who forgives easily, I think you come to learn that forgiving others doesn't necessarily mean letting them back into your life. Oh, and also you are highly creative, artistic, and imaginative. You can be such sentimental people. You can appear quite quiet or shy at first, but once you feel more comfortable with others, you can show different sides of yourself. And so in this respect, you can be quite mysterious. All right, so with the Pisces personality explained overall, let's dive into the personal planets and the rising sign in Pisces. Let's begin by looking at the Pisces rising. So if you have a Pisces rising, when other people first meet you, they are greeted with these qualities of softness, gentleness, dreaminess, and inspiration. The way you walk or move throughout the day appears fluid and mobile. You could be setting out to do something throughout the day, and then all of a sudden you change direction or you adapt to a completely new situation. You flow. You adjust easily to the environment. You can also appear quite serene and tranquil, just very much at peace with the world, even if inside your emotions are going crazy. Then again, there can also be times when you come across as very emotional, as if your emotions are being pulled in all of these different directions, and then it becomes difficult to center yourself. Though I do think that you come to learn how to really ground yourself, how to take deep breaths, You can be highly spiritual people, but you can also get swept away by the material world like anyone. And thinking about being dreamy, you can appear as quite dreamy. Others tend to project their fantasies onto you. They may also project their fears onto you. They may even see what they want to see in you. It's as if you hold up this mirror to them, which can be positive or negative. There can be times also where maybe you project onto other people, especially when certain emotions are too difficult for you to cope with. But then there are other times when you appear so low and down. You can drown in your emotions sometimes. I guess it depends on your mood and it depends on the day. And when it comes to your goals and your ambitions, you tend to flow. You aren't the types of people to push really hard and to make things happen. Yes, you'll work hard and make an effort. You know what you would like to achieve, but you don't force anything. It's about trusting, it's about accepting. Then again, there can be times when you become frustrated because whilst you want to make things happen, your energy just isn't there. And that's where trusting your intuition and paying attention to your emotions comes in. You can actually be great at playing different roles, different characters. Perhaps people tell you often how loving and caring, generous, kind, and creative you are, or they tell you how delusional or crazy you are. After all, this is the first house, and the first house is the house of I am. Now, it's also important to locate your chart rulers, which are Jupiter and Neptune, because they will give you more information about your future aspirations, your optimism, and your faith being Jupiter. And then looking at your spirituality, your transcendence, your inner wisdom being Neptune. Also, your many, many emotions. So looking at Neptune there. Jupiter will provide you with information about how you expand. And Neptune will provide you with information about how you dream. Though essentially, your journey of self-discovery is tied to your imagination, your creativity, abundance, and wealth. The Sun in Pisces. Okay, so we are taking the Sun, which is tied to individuality, ego, and vitality, and we're connecting it with these Pisces qualities of compassion, hospitality, sensitivity, and healing too. Therefore, you feel good about yourself when you are caring for someone, when you're being of service to them, when you're listening to their emotions as a way to be helpful. Naturally, it depends on who that person is. I mean, for example, if you have a child, you will want to show them compassion and really that unconditional love. Or if you volunteer for a certain charity, you like the feelings you get from making a positive impact on somebody else's life. You might actually choose to volunteer or support a certain organization, though on the other hand, there may be times when, or those of you who struggle with your sense of self, you struggle with your individuality, you might merge so much with others that you lose yourself. You might also feel invisible, as if nobody really sees you or understands you. There may be people who take advantage of you, they just take from you, they trample all over you, or they don't appreciate what you do for them. But when you mature, as you mature, you grow to develop boundaries. You grow to establish a strong sense of self. So no matter how much others are looking for a pity party, they're wanting you to rescue them, you're able to turn around and say, no. Then again, your ability to merge with others and to be receptive to their inner world, okay, looking at compassion, well, these things can be powerful and beneficial when done with greater awareness, greater intention. There may also be those of you who really struggle with addiction, especially addictions that involve gambling, pleasure, validation, and applause. Perhaps bringing awareness to these addictions can be useful. Then again, some Pisces folks can bury their heads in the sand, live in a state of denial. And what I also think is you can be super creative and artistic, and you feel good when you're creating in some way. Your creativity and your imagination can be incredibly rich, and you produce outstanding results. Plus, your pride and your identity may be tied to your spiritual practices, your helpfulness, your creative talents. Maybe you're admired by others for your inner wisdom or for your psychic abilities. Or they applaud you for your compassion, for your care, for your deeper insights, for your knowledge. Others tend to look to you for some type of guidance because you genuinely want to help, and also they look to you because it's like, wow, you know so much and you can clearly see what I need to do here. Naturally, do make sure to consider the aspects you have to the sun, or if you have other placements, which makes things quite different. Still, you express qualities of empathy, being inspirational, and being soulful. And your very purpose is tied to these things. Now, do also make sure to consider the house that your sun in Pisces is in, because this will tell you the area of life that this energy is playing out in. The moon in Pisces. Alright, so this is where we notice the most sensitive, private, and secretive qualities of the Pisces traits. Inwardly, you are devotional, highly sensitive, and so emotional. You feel it all. You can feel things so intensely that it can be really hard to disconnect. Therefore, it's essential that you have some time to yourself. You need time to calm down, recharge, recenter yourself. You need time to create, imagine, dream, visualize. Basically, what you need emotionally is to remove yourself from others, especially when a situation is too overpowering. There's too many demands being expected of you. You know, when it's just too much. On that note, perhaps you have been for therapy, or you can see the benefits of therapy, or you have considered reaching out for some type of professional support. Maybe reading books about the emotional body can be really, really helpful. But the point being, you can really absorb other people's emotions and the environment you're in. It just makes me kind of think about something that my therapist told me. So I was telling him how I tend to absorb other people's emotions at times. And he said that the thing about a sponge, right, so absorbing it, you know, you absorb that energy like a sponge. The thing about a sponge is that it can be squeezed, okay? The water in the sponge can be drained. It can be removed from it. So how does this relate to you? Well, I think that you learn how to rinse other people's emotions, so to speak. So rather than allowing them to overwhelm you, you learn how to protect yourself. You learn how to shield yourself. It's this whole notion of recognizing where you end and where another person begins, and asking yourself what your boundaries are and what you're willing to tolerate from other people. Now, stepping into this space can be hard, especially if you have been a people pleaser all your life. Not to mention, we can often feel so guilty when we do put up boundaries, when we do decide to put ourselves first. But perhaps you learn to grow emotionally and spiritually when you accept how you're feeling, and when you feel the part of you that sacrifices your emotions to suit others. And you bring awareness to these things. Now, on the other hand, you can be deeply reflective people, very spiritual. Your emotions can be your strength as well, and your intuition can be so incredibly powerful. You offer so much emotional and spiritual wisdom. And when others do need help, when they need support, you're there without judgment. There's no judgment. You might actually gravitate toward professions where you are helping those in need. You support the vulnerable. And inwardly, you are super creative, artistic, and imaginative. You can be so loving and sentimental. Naturally, do also consider the aspects being made to your Pisces Moon as well as other placements. Though essentially, you are instinctively hopeful, idealistic, kind, and sacrificial. You may also feel a deep spiritual connection with nature and animals and even small children. Though do also make sure to consider the house that your moon in Pisces is in, because this will tell you the area of life that this energy is playing out in. Hi, it's me again. So I just wanted to inform you about the practical astrology guide that I have created. So it is a 20-day practical astrology guide, and it covers the ins and outs of astrology, looking also at how a natal chart is created. It touches on the astrological ages, it looks at astronomy as well, and also looking at those practical representations of the 7 classical planets and the angular points. So if you are someone who is interested in astrology, you're new to it, even if you are an astrology student or you're an astrologer, because we can all learn something different from each other, I definitely recommend this guide. My whole intention with this guide is that you will walk away from it thinking of astrology, hopefully practically and also differently. And my major key aim really with this guide is using the stars for self-awareness. So learning about astrology, but also learning more about yourself and learning more about other people. Plus, it is super affordable, costing only about £2 per day. Though, if you are interested in just a little taster, so looking at you dipping your toes into what this guide is all about, that is available for you as well. Mercury in Pisces. You are an inspirational communicator, a creative and visual learner, and an uplifting and emotional teacher. You look beyond the visible and you can see what messages are not being said. You can pick up on the little nuances in conversations between people. You tend to read into the subconscious, which you may or may not be aware of. Now, I do want to address the fact that Mercury is in its fall in this sign, suggesting some difficulty. And I think the reason for why this is because Mercury is very much about facts and logic. And often it's you who considers feelings over logic. I mean, sure, all of the facts and figures could be pointing toward a certain outcome, but what about other people's feelings? What about the people who need help? What about the people who were overlooked or rejected simply because facts said so? Further suggesting, okay, miscommunication with others, people not seeing where you're coming from. There's a lack of understanding, perhaps more so on their part, and a lack of empathy, in your opinion, as well, coming from them, right? But then on the other hand, there is such a beauty with this Mercury sign, because it's you who possesses this very artistic and creative mind, this very empathetic mind. You can visualize amazingly, you can create wonderful pieces of art and film and media and so on. Like I said, looking at the empathy here, just thinking about how compassionate you can be with your words, and how you make other people feel in this way. You know, other people like to be around people who are kind and thoughtful and soulful. So other people may love to be around you because you can showcase these qualities through how you communicate. Then again, there may also be times when you aren't really truthful with others. Maybe you don't want them worrying or getting hurt or becoming angry. And so maybe it's easier to hide the truth. And so kind of going back to what I was saying earlier here, be careful with this, because one lie could lead to another and then another. Next thing you know, you don't even know what the truth is anymore. So yeah, I think there's the whole saying of you need to have a good memory in order to be a good liar. Still, you can be such gentle and patient listeners. You can also be soft-spoken. Perhaps you're interested in topics and subjects that include spirituality, film, art, photography, the ocean, poetry, media. Things like yoga, crystals, meditation, and mediumship interest you. You may also possess psychic abilities. And when it comes to the likes of driving, commuting, and moving throughout your local city or neighborhood, you can get lost easily. Perhaps you often lose your car keys, or you need help when it comes to directions. You like to attend events that are inspiring and uplifting. And if you attend a party or a gathering and the energy is off, you'll feel it and you'll most likely want to go home. Naturally, do also consider the aspects being made to your Pisces Mercury as well as other placements. But overall, you are gentle, poetic, and compassionate when it comes to the likes of writing, speaking, and media. There are times when you come out with really wise words, but then there can be other times when people look at you and they have no idea what you're talking about. Now, do also make sure to consider the house that your Mercury in Pisces is in, because this will tell you the area of life that this energy is playing out in. Venus in Pisces. Okay, so we are taking this compassionate, loving, devotional, and rhythmic sign, and we are applying it to your relationships, your resources, and your finances. And so when it comes to love, for instance, you can be ever so loving and generous, kind, caring, helpful. You want to please your partner, serve your partner. You want them to feel loved and appreciated. You might sacrifice a lot of yourself in order to be there for your lovers, friends, relatives, and so on. In fact, Venus is exalted in this sign, meaning it can perform really, really well. And the way I see this is there are these unconditional and transcendental qualities to Venus and Pisces here. I do hope I'm pronouncing that word correctly. Suggesting when you love, you truly surrender. You are devoted, you're committed, and there are no conditions to your love. It knows no bounds. Yet, this is also where difficulties can happen. Because, for one, what if your partner doesn't want to receive your love? Two, whilst you can show your love to your partner, you can also show love and compassion to others. You could be in love with someone new before you've ended the current relationship you're in. And this can create a lot of confusion. This can create a lot of hurt. Unintentional hurt perhaps, but still hurt. Not to mention, you could be in a relationship where you're hurting and you still stay. You stay through the suffering, even though nothing is changing. And what you do is you hold on to hope. You hold on to the hope and faith in that things will change. Perhaps they do. Perhaps they do change. But perhaps they don't. Essentially, this Venus sign can be tricky. Because on one hand, it shows powerful devotion and compassion for another. Though on the other hand, it shows the unwillingness to see the lack of kindness or the lack of doing what is moral. However, I also think that as you mature, as you grow, you learn how to develop healthy boundaries and how to establish your own identity within your relationships. You also learn how to be direct, how to be assertive within your relationships. Perhaps there is a great deal of healing to be done within yourself. And rather than denying what you need and what you want within relationships of any kind here, only leading to feelings of pain and suffering and numbness, you learn to be selfish. You learn to put yourself first. And this isn't to say that you need to break up with your partner or end the friendship that you have with your friends. I guess it depends on the situation. But really, this is about you growing emotionally, and spiritually. And being spiritual doesn't mean being a doormat or continuously sacrificing your needs for other people's needs. I'm thinking here about the strength you will gain whenever you trust in yourself. When you trust your intuition, when you say, hold on a second, I have needs too. Hold on a second. No, that doesn't suit me. That I don't like that. There is a reprogramming of your subconscious here, as there is with all Pisces placements. But you reprogram the subconscious part of you that is afraid of rejection, that is afraid of being hurt, that is a people pleaser. Now, when it comes to your resources and your finances, you can be quite charitable and generous. You might give your last to someone else. You can be highly giving and very thoughtful. But at the same time, be aware of your own physical security. Then again, perhaps you trust that money and materials will come back to you. There is this flow, this spiritual inspiration you possess, this inner knowing and trust in the material world. Also thinking here about your talents and your skills. You can be amazing when it comes to empathizing with others, interpreting dreams, reading symbols, writing poetry. You can also be gifted at filmmaking, photography, or you can be gifted within a spiritual practice. You're highly intuitive or psychic. Your stream of consciousness is tied to your earning potential. Naturally, do also consider the aspects being made to your Pisces Venus as well as other placements. Though essentially, you seek compassion and devotion when it comes to your relationships. You want a love that is spiritual and romantic, and you value your creativity and your imagination. Now, do also make sure to consider the house that your Venus in Pisces is in, because this will tell you the area of life that this energy is playing out in. And lastly, Mars in Pisces. Okay, so this is a really interesting one, because whilst Mars here can suggest that you display the more assertive qualities of Pisces, Pisces as an archetype overall isn't really assertive. It's not really direct. Okay, sure, this is where we notice how you can be assertive when it comes to spiritual and knowledgeable matters. You may be the preachers, the gurus, the tarot card readers, the magicians, the astrologers, the creatives, the deep sea divers. But when it comes to anything getting done, things can seem impossible, especially when your heart isn't in it, or when you're forced into doing a task or situation that you don't want to be doing. You don't want to be in that situation. Maybe you prefer to go with the flow, and how you take action is based on your emotions and your intuition. Some days you feel like reaching your goals, other days not so much, they can wait. And perhaps your process, it works well for you. However, what about times when you must work under pressure? What about times when there is a deadline and you haven't started the assignment yet? Well, you can have this emotional meltdown, or you might escape, go into hiding. Maybe you completely avoid the task, the thing that is stressing you out altogether, which only leads to more stress because you haven't done it yet. Or thinking about this spiritually, thinking about this in a spiritual way, perhaps you realize that things weren't meant to be, and not doing the thing will lead to a different thing that suits you much better. Now, on the other hand, there can also be times when you lack boundaries when it comes to your energy levels, okay? Times when you're running on autopilot, you keep going and going, doing and doing. You might get a lot of things done, but then you end up crashing later on. Perhaps you even accept other people's invites and requests. You go along with what they want. Next thing, you're out cold on the sofa, or you're feeling all frazzled. There can also be times when you don't attend to your everyday tasks, and then there is this huge chaos that's just surrounding you. Therefore, I think there is power to be found in the spiritual and emotional. So connecting with your spiritual self, and even if there is a bit of a mess around you, I suppose it's accepting, okay, that's all right. But then the thing about this as well is you grow to become more assertive and more direct. You can actually motivate yourself better and face life's challenges. You grow to work much better under pressure or in an emergency. And when it comes to your anger, okay, there can be times when you go with the flow. You can be quite passive. You refuse to react to people. But then there can also be times when you want to say something, but you don't, and then you bottle things up, and then you end up exploding. Perhaps some of you subconsciously learn to suppress your anger because it's bad or it's unholy. You shouldn't let anger out. And the crazy thing about this is repressing and denying our anger can lead to things like depression, anxiety, being passive aggressive, even more anger, which is bubbling underneath, even directing your anger toward yourself, thinking about being self-destructive in that way. So it makes sense that you might explode from time to time. And so therefore, I think it's important for you to find a healthy outlet for your anger. I've even seen some people with this Mars placement completely lose control when it comes to anger. And maybe that's partly because of the suppression. Or maybe it's that there are those of you who really struggle to manage your anger in healthy ways. But whatever the case may be, there seems to be an imbalance here. Something to be addressed within yourself. And focusing on a few positive things, perhaps you motivate others with your inner wisdom, with compassion, with your dreams. Maybe things like fantasy, art, photography, film, media, water, reading, poetry, travel, religion, and philosophy. These types of things inspire you. Experiencing other worlds inspires you. These places where you can truly escape. Maybe you feel really passionately about retreating and recharging. Naturally, do also consider the aspects being made to your Pisces Mars as well as other placements, though essentially you make for wise scholars, spiritual leaders, explorers, visionaries, creators, volunteers, and healers. And you are so empathetic and helpful and really caring when it comes to your clients, friends, lovers, or colleagues, and so on. Now, do also make sure to consider the house that your Mars in Pisces is in, because this will tell you the area of life that this energy is playing out in. Okay then, Cosmic Warriors, so that concludes my video talking about the Pisces personality. Please let me know if you did find this video to be helpful today, and if you resonated with your placements. I would really appreciate that. And again, let us know your Pisces placements down below, and let us know your thoughts and your opinions on today's video. But that really completes this personality series. I just want to say quickly here, thank you so much to all of you who have caught up with this series. But that is it. We have officially come to the end. I hope that you benefited from this series and you learned something new about yourself, you learned something new about others. So with all of that being said, thank you so much for watching, thank you for subscribing, and of course if you would like to see more videos from myself and you have not yet subscribed, then make sure that you click that subscribe button, and also give this video a like if you did like it today, and I will be back with another video very, very soon. Bye!